I do not need a gi anymore, and I actually do not own any gis. I just threw my last one out the other day. And Precision will be a 100% no gi grappling school. That's the direction that I decided I wanted to take my teachings and my learnings. I haven't put a gi on except for to teach kids class for probably more than 3 years now. No gi is definitely my preferred style of grappling.
I love no gi a lot too, but I still own gis. What is this? You don't own a gi?
I'll be honest, the only gi that I ever actually bought was the very first gi that I bought to do jiu-jitsu. And ever since then, people have just been handing their old gis to me. So every gi I've ever had was just somebody else's that they decided to donate to me. I don't know if it's because my first one got so tattered that they were like, hey man, you need a new gi. We know you're broke. Here's a gi.
What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Raph Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of the Grappling Hour. I hope you're in a good mood. I'm in a fantastic mood. I'm going to talk in a few seconds to one of my longtime friends, Jordan Peitzman. But before we get to him, a few quick reminders. First and foremost, if you like the show, and I hope that you do, go ahead and follow us on all of our social media at Grappling Hour. But the best way to give us some love is to go on to patreon.com/grappling hour. For just $5 a month, you can see my interviews 30 days before anybody else. And for a few extra dollars, you can also see the extra bonus content that is not available anywhere else. We're talking tape studies. We're talking a segment called Roast Raph, where people roast my competition footage. We're also talking a segment where we ask people about their favorite matches of the year. Yeah, it's about that time of the year. And we break down techniques. So just do that at patreon.com/grappling hour. You can also right now, look at this merch. You can get a shirt like this or a hoodie on over at raphisparza.com/merch. So I think it's raphisparza.com/merch. Go there and you can get yourself a t-shirt and a hoodie combination. Keep yourself warm when you're competing or just in the colder regions. I can't complain. I'm in California, but it does get like lukewarm cold for some people. Just saying, you can put one of those on and it helps you out. Last couple of reminders, like, comment, and subscribe if you dig this interview. And I think you will, because it has been a minute since I have caught up with my friend. And additionally, one last thing, you can join our Discord to continue the conversations that we have here on the show. All right, my guest here today. I mean, we go back, and this guy is near and dear to the heart because he has been a great coach, a great competitor. He is an excellent organizer. I mean, he's the governor of Iowa Grappling, which is weird because I didn't know if anybody else was running. So he either appointed himself governor. I'm not really sure how the local state politics work in that region of the country. But the fact that he felt the need to help people there. I'm just the mayor of jiu-jitsu. I like to keep things close to the heart of the city. But this man has been doing incredible work, not only for Subspectrum, but now he is going to be opening up his own gym. And whenever the homies open up their own gym, I always like to bring them on the show to find out about their journey, their process of doing that. But I know it's been a long time coming, and I cannot wait to hear all about it. So why don't we go ahead and bring him on? You know him, you love him, a returning guest and favorite here at the show, one, Jordan Peitzman. Jordan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How about yourself, Raph?
It is great to see you, man. I'm doing great. Hey, listen, dude, I have to say, we have to talk about this governorship, okay? I introduced it earlier. At what point did you say, Iowa needs a governor, but for grappling, and that man is me?
I mean, the people spoke. The people spoke, and they decided that they needed a governor of grappling here in the state of Iowa. And the people came out, they voted, and they appointed me as the governor of grappling here in the state of Iowa.
So was this contested? Did you have any opponents? Because we're in the middle of a very interesting election year. And when those things happen, it always makes me wonder, did you have to do a debate with anybody? Did you run negative ads against anybody? Like, how did you get this position?
Well, I mean, we're here in the state of Iowa that has a rich tradition of grappling. I mean, names that you'll recognize: Cale Sanderson, Dan Gable. Like I said, the people spoke and they decided that I was the man for the job, and thus I became the governor of grappling.
See, I love that because, and I think I have told you this, but one of my friends, he saw that anytime I showed up at a jiu-jitsu gym, the first 2 minutes of me walking into the room, especially if I'm late, is always shaking hands, saying hello. And he noticed, he's like, dude, you're like the mayor. He's like, or I think he tried giving me the governor too. He's like, you're running for office. You're like the governor. And I was like, nah, I don't like governor. And he goes, why? I go, I feel like more connected. He's like, well, you're the mayor of jiu-jitsu. And I was like, that's as close to a nickname as I've ever gotten. So I feel like that's pretty close to the type of person that I am. So very happy to hear about that. Sir, I have to ask this. So in the middle of you putting together a gym, very excited to hear about that. I hear that you're going to take the time to go to Chicago. So why would you pick up the pieces? Why would you get in the car and drive all the way to Chicago when you know your main focus is to get this gym up and running?
Are you talking about to compete at Fight to Win?
Yes, sir.
Um, I mean, the opportunity to compete is something that I hold near and dear to my heart, something that I really enjoy doing. And in recent years, I haven't made a lot of time for that area of passion. There was one showing up, actually, one of our photographers, Brian Conley. He's the official photographer for Subspectrum. He's recently been traveling around to the Fight to Wins, and he became their official photographer. And so I just thought it was a good opportunity to go compete, get a unique match that I've never had before, and then also get some awesome photos from a guy that I know does a really great job.
That's awesome. And I have to say, whenever I hear you're in the middle of competing, I always think, how are you not putting yourself more on these Subspectrum cards? Because entry fees be getting higher by the day, y'all. And I know there are some places that will allow black belts to compete for free, but a little far and few. If I was you, just to save some coin, I'd be like, you know what? I'm throwing myself on this card.
So I do from time to time at the open tournaments. I'll jump in there from time to time. I'm terrible at delegating tasks, so there is so much of the operation throughout any event that I'm heavily involved in. And my record of competing on my own events is not that great. I don't feel as though I perform quite as well as I would if it was just me competing, independently from my own event. Don't have a great opportunity to warm up. Obviously, there's a lot of other focuses, being a coach, running the event, trying to make sure everybody has a good time. But I'll still jump in there from time to time just because it is so much fun. And, win or lose, it's still a good opportunity to get some matches in.
Do the people that you compete against have an idea that you're running it? Because I feel you're pretty synonymous with the brand. Is there ever a moment where they're kind of like, oh, got the dude who put this together? Like, or is there a moment where they're just thinking like midway through, like, all right, I didn't like the way I was sequenced last event. I'm going to come at this guy now.
No, I think people seem to they seem to hold a high level of respect for me. So I like to think that they enjoy the opportunity to get on the mat and compete against me. And I'm always cordial with people before and after the match. So it's like there's no hard feelings. We're both just there to do something that we're passionate about, and that's something that we enjoy. And again, win or lose, it's just fun.
I love seeing you get out there, and I always appreciate the fact that you kind of make that something that you do as an active competitor. A lot of us, I mean, the reason why I asked that question in particular is I was in a finals once and some dude recognized me, and the person who recognized me was the person I'm competing with. And he then asked me, as we literally started the match, if I beat you, do I get to go on the show? And I had a moment where I was thinking like, bro, you need to aim higher. Another person that I would like to talk about at this particular juncture is a mutual friend of ours. Now, listen, you put this guy on a platform and he is near and dear to us because he has become our social media content clip king, and that is one Brian Peterson. So how did Brian Peterson fall on your radar, sir?
So Brian trains at a gym that's about 2 hours away from us here in Des Moines. He trains at a very high level gym in Tipping Point, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. John Guda, the guy who runs it, he's one of the OGs of Jiu-Jitsu here in Iowa. When I was first starting out as a white belt, I remember going to basically the only tournament that existed in the whole state and watching him as a purple belt just leg lock all these black belts. So he trains under a very high level instructor who I have a lot of respect for, and somebody who I go to visit and learn from time to time. And he's just a black belt here in the state of Iowa. The community's pretty small and it's pretty tight. It's pretty cohesive. So just through the number of jiu-jitsu events that I've hosted and that he's been a part of, he expressed interest in doing some commentary alongside another friend of yours and mine, Anthony Paychecks. And so now they're kind of the official commentary team for Subspectrum.
So I made a passing reference to Brian because those gentlemen got dressed up, and Anthony looked in his most Razor Ramon Colombian drug lord apparel that I was so proud of. And listen, Brian did very well. And I know he suggested to Anthony to dress up a little bit, but Brian ended up looking like Tony Schiavone. And I'm not sure he's put it together that he is very much the Tony Schiavone of that team. And at first he was just kind of like, I could see it with this costume. And I go, I don't think it's just the costume, bro. Like it's a little bit there. I don't know if you see the resemblance. So I'm not sure he's fully partaken of that, but I enjoy those two gentlemen a lot. And I feel like you have a winning team there, but I do have you to thank for his involvement because he's been a key asset to this show and just a very good human being. And it's been a pleasure to be able to work with him.
I don't know if I'd call him a good human being. I mean, he's always posting videos of wrist locking people and flipping them off. But no, I'm just messing. Yeah, no, he's a good guy. I like him.
No, it's not to say that he doesn't have his quirks about him. I did get the chance to roll with him out at 10th Planet Lombard, and I got a sense of who he is because it's one thing to see the videos where he wrist locks people, but they're out of context. I very quickly found that was the move he wanted to get. And I was just in the space of thinking like, yeah, I got to be aware of all of these things. So it did kind of give me some pause there. So along those lines, and one thing that we all share in common, myself, you, Brian, is an appreciation for the real arts, not just the grappling arts that we teach in our schools, but those of the professional kind. And I saw recently people were asking you if you were ever going to do any more of your chair videos. Now, it's kind of weird because the bumps you were taking in those chair videos, I thought, were fairly intense, but you were so committed and so bored at that time that you were basically taking bumps without any crowd noise. And it made me think, okay, that's impressive. But you're right to say like, hey, I don't know if I'm coming back. But I'll ask you right here, right now, are you making a comeback at some point? Because now you got a gym to promote, sir.
I think my chair days are retired. I would actually have to go out and buy a chair. I don't own a chair. I have, I think, 2 stools, but other than that, everything in my house is standing or sitting on the floor. So I would have to actually go out and buy a dining room chair to put a gi on, which I probably wouldn't put a gi on it. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, I suppose, here in a second when we talk about the gym. But yeah, I think those days are over. I think that was a one-off for COVID, but who knows? Anybody can come out of retirement, right?
I'll just ask you this. First of all, in MMA and especially pro wrestling, retirements aren't real. So you can say whatever you want. But number 2, have you had anything do the viral numbers that those pieces of content have done?
Not consistently, I would say, or at least in the ways that it reaches the far stretches of the world. I mean, I remember I had people from Korea and from Malaysia and all these different places all around the world sending me these chair videos and tagging me in them, telling me how inspiring I was. I'm like, this is the weirdest thing ever. But I guess it was a time when a lot of people were, it was a pretty dark time with COVID and everything going on. So something as simple as a man wrestling a chair was making its way around the world, and whether it was somebody making fun of it or people inspired to make their own chair videos, I guess it's cool that it made it around to so many people.
I feel they picked up on the metaphor, which was it wasn't just you wrestling the chair, it was you're wrestling your demons, it was you wrestling the situation, it was you wrestling your sanity. So I felt like a lot of people were picking up on that. And I think that's why it went the extra mile, because I have to tell you, man, every once in a while, sometimes I get a WWE BJJ video that gets submitted to us and I go, it's okay. Like, that one's okay. And it makes me have to go to these people and be like, you have to be creative. Like, give me something that's fun, entertaining, like a spectacle. And I have used yours in the past as like a primer to go, listen, this man was clearly suffering early onset dementia and he did this, but look how entertaining this was. And they all agree. They're like, you know what? You're right. And I go, as long as you do something to that caliber and do that. So I'll just say this. When the next WWE BJJ season runs through, I will be expecting you to submit something, sir.
Yes, I know. I've been talking about doing it for years. So now that I have my own gym space, I feel like it's a little bit easier. So
you've got some guinea pigs.
It'd be a great way to promote the gym as well too. So
I think so. Well, I think enough time has lapsed. Let's get straight into what is happening. So I'd love to know, at what point did you know you were interested in opening a gym? Because I always like to figure out, was that something that you knew right away when you were starting your grappling journey? Or has this been more of a recent development? Or did it kind of manifest because you were teaching so much that it became a logical next step?
Yeah, I think at this point, I could view it as a logical next step or an obvious next step for me in my progression. For years, I battled over the idea whether opening a gym was really something that I wanted to do. I was very happy in my position teaching at the gym. We had a great, huge kids program. About 4 years ago, I took over the adult 6 a.m. program, and that's like one of the most dedicated and motivated adult groups that I've ever worked with. And I really enjoyed being an instructor. But it was more recently that I started to have thoughts about, where do I want to take this next? I think while I was building Subspectrum, that was not a taxing, but just it took a lot of my mental and even my physical resources, again, because I'm terrible at delegating tasks. So now that I feel like that's a pretty well-established tournament and something that's a pretty well-oiled machine that I wouldn't say runs itself, but I feel comfortable with the way that I'm running that. Opening a gym was kind of the next step for me and something that I've been passionate about doing, but wasn't sure if I was really ready to take that next step. And earlier this year, I took a little vacation. Me and my girlfriend like to take like a seasonal vacation, just take like 2 weeks and just we go out. We have a platform built out in the back of our 4Runner, so we just do car camping. We go find some of the most remote spots that we can find out in the Western United States, and reflect on what's going well, what's not going well, and where we want to head next. And during that time, I decided that opening a gym was something that I did want to do, and I came back and I started taking steps towards making that a reality.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And I do want to talk about those camping trips, because I think one of the times you were doing it during ADCC, and I thought, oh my God, normally I plan around that, but maybe you just were ahead of the curve. And knowing that in the future, you're like, nah, in the future, you guys will understand. It's not that big of a deal for this ADCC. Something else is going to come in the future. But it surprised me because we're so obsessed with jiu-jitsu here. And yet you were able to find the peace of mind and the time to go out and spend time with your girlfriend. And I thought that's pretty amazing. So how long have you been doing those trips, and where have you gone on some of those trips?
Yeah, so we've been doing them for about 2 or 3 years now. We did like smaller little, just, go get an Airbnb or those type trips in the past. But about 3 years ago, I bought an older 4Runner. We built out a platform in the back, so it has the ability to have a full-sized bed in it. There's drawers for storage and everything underneath. And we started setting ourselves up to be able to do car camping trips where we could go out and, for 2 weeks, we've got all the food and power and water and everything that we need. So if we don't see a town or a gas station or anything, we're fine. And if we do, then, obviously that's a luxury. But the first big trip that we did was around southern Utah. So we kind of hit a lot of the national parks and different state parks and cool wilderness areas that are out there. We've done a couple other trips up to the like Yellowstone and Grand Teton area. Another one down in like New Mexico and Texas, and then that finished up with the eclipse earlier this year, which was really, really cool. And then our most recent one, we were in northern Montana up near Glacier National Park and Flathead National Forest. And that was an amazing one that we just got back from not too long ago.
How long do those take to plan? Because I'm a pretty meticulous planner, and I know how obsessed I become whenever I'm about to make a travel plan or something and all the details that I go through. You are a self-admitted terrible delegator when it comes to stuff. So I just assume you, like I, spend a lot of time in the preparation. So how much time are you dedicating for that pre-trip planning?
So with every trip, I would say it becomes less and less, and we just kind of wing it. We get a general idea of the areas and the places and maybe some of the things that we want to see. We research the national forest dispersed camping areas, which is places basically in any national forest. As long as you're off the main road, you can pretty much camp anywhere that you would like. So we just kind of get a bunch of those pins put down in on our Google Maps, and then we just kind of set out and just let whatever happens. If we really like a spot, we'll stick around for a couple extra days, or if we get to a spot and it's maybe not quite what we thought, usually because of too many tourists, then we'll try to find somewhere else, and we just stay on the move or stay in one spot, and just try to enjoy our time as much as we can while we're out there.
Before I go back to kind of the gym talk, I do want to compliment you because your photos of those things are so amazing. And I'm not a person that camps anymore. I did Boy Scouts as a kid. I kind of got it out of my system. Now convincing me to take time off to go into nature and doing that stuff is always like, I got stuff to do, man. Like, I don't got time to do that. But when I was a kid, I was all about it. Rock climbing, that, going out, finding new destinations. I have to say, the photos that you capture are one of the few times I look at that sort of nature and go, man, okay, I could go back to that. That seems pretty beautiful. That's pretty great. How did you start developing wanting to take photos? And, how has that been for you in terms of also teaching you a new skill? Because it's pretty good. The photos turn out really great, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate that compliment. And so I've always enjoyed taking photos of things. I've always enjoyed nature, capturing the beauty of nature. But I do have to give a lot of credit to, I mentioned him previously, but Brian Conley, he's the official photographer for Subspectrum. He's the one that convinced me to get a bunch of camera gear, and it was for Subspectrum. We were at a point where some of our content, I mean, it was okay, but there was a ton of room for improvement, and we were relying on outside crews to bring in their own camera gear and trusting that they had the knowledge to be able to provide the kind of content that we wanted. And he suggested, hey, like, I know this is not going to be cheap, but invest in your own cameras little by little, build up a little collection of cameras and materials that you need to try to make this happen. And then through that, I just developed a passion for cameras and learning. And again, because we were relying on other outside crews to perform the job, I just assumed that they knew what they were doing, and I didn't bother to learn myself. But through collecting the gear myself, I was forced to really learn how to run cameras, how to use them, how to get the most out of them. And through that, I kind of found a passion for nature photography and just photography in general, videography. And obviously it fits right into everything I'm doing with Subspectrum and Precision pretty well.
Well, see, as somebody else who also serves as kind of an EP for a different organization, I like to always know a little bit about everything because
Hmm.
at some point, especially when people turn to you and go, huh, how do I fix that? You
Yeah.
really can't give them a, I don't know. You have to give them a, even if you don't know, it's a, well, let's find out together. Or it's a, how much time do we have? And sometimes you're pressed for that. So the more prep work that you can do, learning something like a camera or how a video camera works, they pay off in dividends for when you're running events. And one thing that I found over the years is when I work in TV, I really do try to make it whenever I'm on set a point to go talk to the different departments. So it's always like, hey, cameraman, what is this? And I remembered once I was in the middle of doing graphics and I was working with this very, very intense graphics team. And I just remember telling them, like, hey, how do you do this? And they showed me how to replug everything. And I swear to God, it was no later than 2 days where I go, nope, I got it. Hold on,
Yeah.
this. And they go, how'd you do that? I go, I work with some of the best guys in the business. He taught me and it's in here now. So I feel very happy that you take those extra steps because I'm sure you, like I know, sometimes somebody comes up to you and says, hey, the stream's down. And you go, the what's down?
And I got tired of that. and not being the one that was able to fix it, but also being surrounded by people who didn't know how to fix it. So it's like I had to learn every step of the process, and through that I've developed what I think is a pretty unique skill set that is super helpful for everything that I'm trying to do.
I will tell you, I feel like there is a nice community of us. I would, of course, widen that net to include my brother Keelan Lawyer and Isaac Stackhouse, who run the PGF, and my good buddy Octavio, who also works that with us and does a whole bunch of stuff for EBI and combat. And every time we work together, it's like knowing that all of us can do 20 different roles and that when we confer with each other, I remember there are times where we're just kind of shooting the shit on terrible things that have happened to us. And it felt so bonding because there's a whole culture of us that are overproducing and wearing 12 hats just to make one show happen. So I'm like, no, Jordan knows this life too. Like, it is so fulfilling when it hits. It is so
Yeah.
wonderful to see those athletes get their due, to get all these people enjoying and happy. But the relative stress in all of our brains of doing 20 jobs is always at the end of the day like, I need a few days off. Don't anybody talk to me, please. I cannot function. My brain is dumb.
Exactly.
So I want to go back to this. All right. So you knew as you were developing more of this class and you were developing as a teacher that you wanted to do this gym of your own eventually. And you said that things were kind of coming together. So for you, what was kind of that launching point of you saying like, all right, now it's got to happen? Because to me, it seemed like you had a good gig. It seemed like you were happy doing that. And Lord knows you're already doing enough work with Subspectrum. That's like 2 jobs and a half. So it's never the right time to pull the trigger, but why did this feel like the right time?
So I mean, like I said, I know that there's more to what I'm doing, and I know that I have an opportunity to create something separate from the environment that I was in. Not to say anything bad about it, but as with any gym environment, you know, there's going to be a split of ideologies and training methods and different types of things. And I knew that I wanted to create my own unique training environment separate from the one that I had been that I had been existing in before. And so, like, as soon as I came back from that trip, the first thing I did is I went to the owners of the gym that I was working at, and I was like, hey, this is something that I want to do. I don't necessarily know what this timeline looks like. My thought is that it would be a year and a half, maybe even 2 years before I was actually in a position to try to make this happen. And I won't get too much into the details about what transpired, but basically my timeline was shortened by a pretty significant amount. And so I was forced into kind of figuring it out a little bit quicker than I had originally intended to. And quite honestly, I'm grateful for that because almost anything in my life that has become something great has happened from what would otherwise maybe be looked at as like a negative circumstance or scenario. And through that, I was able to, in a sense, paint myself into a corner and force myself to act and create growth. And this is no different. So in the past, I maybe would have looked at it a little bit more negatively when I received the news that timeline had shortened. But I immediately knew, like, oh, this is the good stuff. This is where the growth happens, and this is where the opportunities become abundant. So I was excited to start getting to work on what is now precision submission grappling.
All right. So for precision, I have to ask. You detailed it a little bit earlier, and you said a chair may not need a gi. Well, why is that, sir? Why would a chair not need a gi? It just seems like a natural thing. Most people, if they're training jiu-jitsu, need a gi. Otherwise, you're just not learning the real art, sir.
The reason is I do not need a gi anymore, and I actually do not own any gis. I just threw my last one out the other day. And Precision will be a 100% no-gi grappling school. That's the direction that I decided I wanted to take my teachings and my learnings. I haven't put a gi on except for to teach kids class for probably more than 3 years now. No gi is definitely my preferred style of grappling. I wouldn't say that I hate the gi or I don't know, but no gi is my preference, and that's the direction that I want to take Precision.
Okay, I feel you. I love no gi a lot too, but I still own gis. What is this? You don't own a gi statement that you made?
I mean, I'll be honest, the only gi that I ever actually bought was the very first gi that I bought to do jiu-jitsu. And ever since then, people have just been handing their old gis to me. So every gi I've ever had was just somebody else's that they decided to donate to me. I don't know if it's because my first one got so tattered that they were like, hey man, you need a new gi. We know you're broke. Here's a gi. But I just ended up with a collection of other people's gis. And through the time, those either, became stinky gi guys gi or got torn or tattered. And so, I was down to my last one. I hadn't worn it in a long time, and I threw it away. And I don't really see myself putting the gi back on, to be honest.
Okay, so hold on. I can understand not wearing the gi, but to throw it out seems like a little bit of a you broke up with the ex-girl sort of thing.
It was torn.
Okay, it was torn.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better, because when you do that, you're like making this pronounced, like, I don't need this anymore sort of thing. No. And I think, like, all right, we can tone that down.
It wasn't quite like that.
But two, again, I'm with you. I mostly teach no gi pretty exclusively. And every once in a while, somebody will ask to roll gi, and I'll remember, like, oh shit, it's been like 2 months since I've rolled gi or something to that effect. But the one thing I supremely relate to you about was when I first started, I had one gi, and I bought the starter gi from the gym I was training at. I didn't know it was a little bit more of a kind of judo gi. Like, it draped, is a little embarrassing. And I went to gyms with that gi. And I remembered saying somewhere online, and I think I had tagged BJJ HQ, where I was super excited about a gi coming out. I was like, oh man, I'm so excited to get that one because that's affordable, and I only have one gi. And they sent it to me. They were like, listen, you're poor. This is embarrassing. Have a second gi. And I remember being so touched by that. And then maybe about a month and a half later, so deeply embarrassed, like, oh my God. They were literally like, this host cannot be this poor. Like, we have to give him something. It was just like, sure, I could have bought a gi, but it just wasn't a priority at that time in my life. And the majority of my gis I've been given over the years. So I do understand that. When did you know you didn't want to do gi anymore, though? Like, it's one thing to say that, and yes, they'll make you put on the pajamas to teach the children, or that's more the program that they have. So you don't want to disrespect that. You put it on, you do it anyway. But when did that become very clear and present for you? I'm sure it's partially because you compete so much no gi, but you also had a lot of training in the gi that kind of made it seem like a no-brainer. You would teach that.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I think it's just kind of been a slow burn of the gi, I guess. Like, it was never my favorite style of grappling. And for all of the classic cliche reasons, but I just don't enjoy the additional grip fighting or the added friction of certain positions. It hurt my hands, to be honest. That was one of the reasons that I quit training in the gi a lot. People told me my hands and fingers would adapt to those grips, and they never actually did. And I already have a bunch of jacked up fingers from different things that I've broken them in life, rock climbing and football and wrestling and all different things. Um, so I just would say that, I mean, that was probably one of the main reasons of why I stopped training the gi as much. And then over time, I just developed a much greater liking for no gi. Um, and then eventually decided that that's just all I was going to do.
Understood. And I mean, I think we've over the years vaguely talked about the idea that you lean very heavily no gi. It's just whenever people make those pronouncements, that's like, I have decided I am not doing the gi anymore. I always think to myself, like, all right, chill out, dude. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But it is an important thing for a gym to say that. My buddy, Mike Frosto, his gym, New Ground, they made it a point to just do no gi training. And I think that's a really cool thing. And they had wondered if that was going to be a thing, especially since they weren't necessarily a 10th Planet affiliate, how that would affect business. And I said, it's a different time now. It's not
Yeah.
where it was 10 years ago, even, where if you say you're specializing in no gi, I think people can make that effort to say, yeah, I want that. Or sometimes if they learn it, even as parents, that quickly that you're doing it, you don't need the pajamas to teach kids. You can basically bring them in on this as an early start, akin to wrestling or akin to other sports where you don't necessarily need that uniform.
Exactly. And I think in general, I've always had kind of a weird feeling about, and it's not the gi itself, but like some of the ego that can be built around belts and the weird appeal to authority and the hierarchies and the bowing and lining up and all these different things that we typically see in traditional martial arts gyms. And if you do that, that's fine. Like whatever, it's your gym, you can do whatever you want. But we're here in the state of Iowa. There's a lot of wrestling rooms. There's no ranks in wrestling. You have the brand new 7-year-old 55-pound kid that has 2 matches under his belt, and then you have the 7-year-old state champion who's got 150 matches and is undefeated and won 3 state championships since he was 4. Those 2 kids go against each other, and there's no rank. It's just age and weight, and those kids match up. And you see it in so many other sports. It's like there are other markers or other ways that we can celebrate achievement outside of belts. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to award belts. Obviously, I still think it's an important thing, especially if you're going to compete. And it's still jiu-jitsu. It's still a martial art. So we're going to use the traditional Brazilian jiu-jitsu belt system, but we just won't be wearing them on a daily basis. And so far, I've noticed it as a positive thing for our culture.
Well, especially in Iowa, as you mentioned, with such a deep wrestling background, you don't have to convince anybody on what this is. At this point, they know it's part of the culture out there. So if anybody's going to be able to get away with it, you're right. Being able to have kids go against each other in that, it probably seems more natural, if anything, to have that be that way. What I would say to you is this. Okay, so let's say I'm a friend, somebody who's qualified, right? Let's say I'm in Iowa. And I come up to you at your gym and I say, hey, bud, I like what you got going on here, sir. How about I teach a gi class? What are you saying to that guy? Because it might happen where you get somebody who's so good at gi that they offer their services and it's a deal you can't beat or resist or a talent you can't resist. Have you thought about what you might say in that situation?
So I mean, my current plan right now is to not, and this goes back to me not delegating tasks or anything, but I'm not going to start or launch any programs that I wouldn't want to personally teach myself.
Gotcha.
I think it's important for me to be, the main person running the classes, and I like being a part of all of the classes and the culture there. So I think there are other ways to add value to your students, aside from offering different styles or different, additional classes. So, at least for right now, my plan is that I won't be handing off any of the classes to somebody else. I'll have assistant coaches that help me, but I want to be involved at pretty much every aspect of the coaching with the gym.
I could understand that. Again, it was something that when my buddy opened up his gym, he pulled the reverse card. So when he was opening up his no-gi gym, I remembered saying to him like, oh, hey, there's going to be another gym that's going to be opening up here. They're gi. And, you're no-gi. And he's fine. They do that. You do this. And he goes, yeah, but what if I want to open up gi? And I was like, that would mean you'd have to want to do it. And he goes, touche. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I left for a split second. He just did like the idea of like, well, what if I wanted to? And I go, bro, you have to want to do it. Like, if you don't want to do it, it's totally cool. But it made me laugh because I do realize in this sport, we do have artists who are very good at a certain skill. And sometimes you don't see that happening yet. So at least for the interim, it is good to know you're going to be forging ahead with this no-gi program, making that committed focus. And then as you grow, I'm sure, and once things stabilize, then you could look and you can reassess. But for right now, it does look like you will not be taking or teaching any gi classes in the very near future. So that is a very smart thing to do. I want to ask about the scheduling because I looked at that. And a few things peered out to me. Number one, this is your day off, and you told me that you're doing this on your day off. So thank you for that. But I noticed your day off was in the middle of the week. And I was like, oh,
Absolutely.
no. What does that mean for the rest of the week, sir?
Yeah. So we run classes, we load up on classes Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. We don't have any weekend classes, and we don't have any classes on Wednesday. And that's, again, because I'm the one that's running all of the classes. I think it's important for me to organize my gym in a way that enhances my life and not just, become a slave to offering as many classes as I possibly can and becoming burnt out. We're very limited in the number of programs that we offer. And if that means less students, that's something that I'm okay with. I don't have dreams of having a 300, 400, 500 student gym. I just want a group of dedicated and competitive and motivated individuals that want to train jiu-jitsu together and improve, and who, to some degree, feel like they're all on the same playing field and are respected the same regardless of belt rank. And I think some of that goes along with why I wanted to do no-gi as well too.
That makes sense. And I want to ask about this weekend schedule. So the weekend schedule also spoke to me because you made a particular appeal, or you made a particular sort of challenge to the people when your gym is not going to be open. So what were you advocating to your students or to people who attend your gym to do on those weekends?
Take care of and focus on the other aspects of your life that are important outside of training. Training is just one of the many things that enhances or makes our lives better. But we have family, we have friendships, we have our faith, we have, our overall mental and physical well-being. We have laundry, cooking food, all these different things that are important for maintaining a healthy and positive life. And I want to make sure that not only do I give myself room to do those things, but I give my students room to do that as well. And then additionally, I encourage them to cross-train. Cross-training is one of the most important factors in me becoming the coach and the grappler that I am today. So if you're a student at Precision and you're looking for opportunities to train on the weekends, there are a host of other really great jiu-jitsu academies here in Des Moines, and I encourage them to go out and see what those other gyms have to offer. Yeah.
I do have to say, I thought that was such a cool thing when you posted up, we're going to be closed. We encourage you to go cross-train, because it's normally the inverted version of that for most academies. They don't say anything. They just go, well, we're closed this day. Period. Done. That means you don't do jiu-jitsu, or we don't want to hear about it. Yours was just like, hey, listen, I became a better grappler because of my cross training. So I want you to have that same experience. And I thought, if you're starting to build a culture for your gym, that is an excellent way to give your people, your customers, your clients, and your students, if you would, the very, very beginnings of what the school and the gym stand for. So
Absolutely.
props on that, man. And I thought that
Thank
was
you.
super cool, and was very excited about it. So what, if anything, was difficult in the kind of getting the process going? I know you detailed like in terms of how you were going to leave the gym, but leaving the gym is one thing. Then starting your own comes with a host of different challenges and different things that sometimes you don't even see coming. So what was it like for the actual build out of your location, your space, and for where you were going to call home now?
Yeah, so commercial real estate was a beast that I wasn't necessarily ready for. Just the amount of time that it takes to get anything done. I'm sure it's not always the case, but for the space that we were looking at, it's a really great location. The price was right compared to a lot of the other really expensive commercial real estate in the area. It's an older building, but it's really nice. The space is wide open. There's restrooms, there's showers. It's exactly everything we needed. But it seems that the landlord is just not super motivated to rent the space out. So it's like things that should take one day in a single email take 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time. And so that's been a whole process in and of itself. I thought that we would be able to have a lease signed by this time. We've been working on it since late April, and we're still not at that point yet. But fortunately, I've made some good relations with the building that we host Subspectrum at. So I'm actually renting some temporary space there. We've got mats set up. We started classes last Thursday, and so Precision Submission Grappling is off and running for now at a temporary location until we're able to get something a little bit more permanent. But in the meantime, it's been a great place to train, minus the absence of showers and the fact that it's in an older building. But other than that, I'm super grateful to be able to get started where we're at and start working towards that permanent location, hopefully in the near future.
So you've been using part of the space where you guys put on the Subspectrum events.
Correct. Yeah. So it's an interesting building. So it used to be part of it used to be an old. It's actually an old junior high, and then I think in the 80s, a church bought it and they built on this giant 5,000 seat sanctuary, which is actually where we host the Subspectrum events. There's a big, giant, rounded edge stage, and then a ton of space on the floor. So we're able to put 2 large mats up on the stage and 4 mats down on the floor in front of the stage. So if you've seen any of our photos from the events, it's a very unique and what I think is a very cool venue for grappling, and it gives people a feeling that it's something bigger than just your average jiu-jitsu tournament that you see in a high school gym. So it's been a cool spot for us to be able to host those events. And then through the relationships that I've built there, there's a very large classroom up on the old classroom up on the second floor. That was most recently used, I believe, for kind of like the youth group where they would hold their services on Wednesday nights or Sundays. And so now that is the temporary home of Precision Submission Grappling until we can get something a little bit more permanent in place.
Well, I think there's a huge connection, because I remember when you were first starting Subspectrum that you were talking about finding this wonderful location, and there was this connection to it. And listen, I'm incredibly selfish, so I'm always telling you, like, come to LA, come to different cities. And you were very adamant about, like, our community needs this. And I can't tell you anything to that. Like, you're right. Iowa should have a place where grapplers go, and you serve not just Iowa, but a number of surrounding states and communities. So keeping that there is a smart idea. But when you found that venue, you were telling us at the time, you were like, I don't want to move. Like, I like this place because they've been so good to us. Why wouldn't I want to stay here? Like, why wouldn't I want to go that? So for them to also open up their doors to you on a regular basis so that you can be teaching students while you get your full academy ready, that has to be a pretty remarkable sign of how much faith they have in you doing something that's going to be a long-term benefit for the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super grateful that I found this place. It's a really interesting old, like, parts of it kind of creepy building, but I mean, I see so much potential in the building, and I just hope that the right person with the right amount of money finds that building and does what I believe that it could be. There's an article in the Des Moines Register years ago, the guy who originally bought it, and I'm not sure exactly what his position is with it now, but I mean, they had intentions to put a restaurant and a boutique hotel and turn the sanctuary into a concert venue. And I think he had a lot of really great ideas. Unfortunately, I don't think he had the execution to make some of those things happen. But I think if the right person, and I think if this building existed anywhere else in any other large metropolitan area anywhere else in the country, somebody would have found it and done it by now. So I'm just hoping that right person finds its way to Des Moines, and I don't know, maybe it's me. Maybe it's me someday. I don't think I quite have the financial resources to make something like that happen, but um, you know, maybe I'll find a way.
Hey man, give you some time. The best
Yeah.
thing that ever happens is just time and space is a funny way of working out. But if you're already in that building, you know, you've made progress from just hosting events there to making that a permanent home fixture to, oh man, did the governor become the president of Iowa? Like, these are just things that happen over time. So I just wonder what that future holds in store for you and the great people over there. So along those lines, what is it going to be like trying to have this gym? And then you already told me that your next event is November 9th for Subspectrum. What is it going to
Mhm.
be like putting those two spinning plates at the exact same time? Because you've always had the benefit of you coach somewhere, you teach somewhere, and then you could also still work on the Subspectrum events. Now you're doing both as the head instructor and founder and chief guy at your gym and putting on Subspectrum.
I mean, the hardest part of it for me was when I was teaching at the gym was pulling myself away from the work that I would have to do at the venue the week of to get ready for the event, to go and leave and go teach the kids class. Even though I'm obviously super passionate about the kids class, I'm also a very like one track mind focused person. So when I'm in a task, it's really difficult for me to break out of that and go into something else. But now I'm in the same building, and it's like literally down the hall and down some stairs, and there's the venue for Subspectrum. So for years, I've been fortunate enough to be able to store all of our gear and all of our equipment for the tournament there in the building. So really, not a whole lot has changed, to be honest. I'm teaching a few extra classes. You know, obviously, I'm managing memberships and stuff for the gym. But from what I've noticed, I don't think a whole lot's going to change. Maybe November 9th rolls around and I'm like completely overwhelmed and I'm, 100% wrong about that. But I'm confident that I'm going to be able to handle whatever gets thrown at me, especially with the crew of people that I do trust with some tasks. You know, I say I'm terrible at delegating, but there is a pretty special group of people around me that help me make sure that the Subspectrum events go off well every single time.
I mean, that is the mark of a growing industry. And it does seem like every time I see the progress of Subspectrum, I see something new that you've added, whether it's your amazing graphic artist who does incredible work, like that style. It looks very crisp, very clean. Same to your photographer. Your photographer's very good. He knows how to pull that out. And, the fact that he was giving you stuff to learn for your own photography, it bodes well. It's an extension of what you do. So there's a lot of components that I see just from the outside that I look at and I go, man, he's really dialing this in. And for me, I still want to see it at some point. I'm sure we'll figure out a way. But initially it was I wanted to do commentary, but now you got a commentary team and I don't want to seem like I'm taking their jobs or anything. Like I like both the guys, so I can't even angle that anymore. But are you planning to put more of these broadcasts out because they've been so internalized? Do we ever get to see Subspectrum on our internet television or our screens so that we feel like we're part of that community and we're able to watch from far away?
Yeah. So, I think we've slowly been building towards that. For a few events now, we've kind of been running things as if it was live, just not actually, putting it out there on the internet. We'll cut it up and edit it up, throw it up on YouTube. So, like for our last event, all however many 100 matches that are on each mat, you've got the whole match, and then you've got the dead time cut out in between with logos and graphics and good transitions in between, so that it's not like that horrible live stream, shitty webcam. I'm not going to mention any organizations' names, but you know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
What I would consider very low effort content production. And so we've been building towards being able to do a live production where we can share more of what's going on here in Iowa with the rest of the world. It's been really important for me to build that out with people that are close to the Iowa Jiu-Jitsu community and people that I trust to take over those various different roles. And, I also have a sense of patience that although we're not doing, the most or the best or whatever it is right now, I know that if we continue to build on top of the foundation that we've already laid and created, 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the line, it'll be something completely unrecognizable from what we see today. And, I'm patient in seeing those results come to fruition over time rather than just trying to make it all happen at once.
I'm very with you on that side because I see too many grappling organizations that go, let's just go big and let's not get more reps in. I'm always like, no, make your reps when nobody's looking or when nobody can see it from the outside yet. Dial in that production, get it to a place where you can present it and you can basically say, look at this. Look at what we've been acclimating and doing all these different years. And I feel like that's the area that I've seen because every time I see, oh, the lighting looks really cool now. Oh, they've done more work with that. Oh, shit, they got multiple mats that they can go off of. I wonder how you would shoot that. So every time I look at something, I just think everything you add then means you have to spend more time for a televised production, taking the time to take into consideration how you would show people that. And so,
Yeah.
If you had done the 1.0 version and just kept it like that, I'm pretty sure you'd just be like, all right, one fight, go, done.
Yep.
One fight, go, done. I think you could do that. I think you're building to something that you're continuing to build that community. And I don't think you'll be served wrong by doing that. So just continue just staying on that path. And I'm very excited to see what's going to come of it. But I should ask this. I don't think we talked about it, but I know I had alluded to the fact that you were a governor. Well, hello, Kat. Who is this?
That's my buddy Churro.
This is Churro. Okay.
Churro's my dude.
How old is Churro?
Churro is what, about 2.5 years old? What's up, buddy? Hey, please don't scratch me. I'll let you down, I promise.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet Churro and to have him interrupt us here. Churro seems, and I don't want to say this because I don't like talking about other people's children, but like Churro's bulky right there, man.
He's thick for sure. He steals his sister's food a lot, and there was a period of time where he used to wake me up in the night all the time, and the only way I could get him to leave me the hell alone was to feed him. So I'm definitely responsible for some of his extra weight that he carries around the midsection.
Could I ask this? Have you gone to a doctor and have they said that Churro is overweight?
Yeah, they just straight up said he's fat. So they said they're like, he should be like 10 pounds and he's like 14, 15 pounds. I'm like, all right. So we dialed it back a little bit. He's lost a little bit of weight, but he's still got some work to do. We're working on building up to being able to walk him outside so he can get some extra exercise too. So
I will be perfectly honest. I have been told over the years, like, hey, you could lose a little bit of weight or something by a doctor. Never affected me. The minute a vet said that about my French bulldog, I was like, what did you just say about her?
Excuse me?
Excuse me? The pride and joy of my life? What did you just say? She's fat? And I think at one point they were like, she could lose like a pound or two or something. Like even a pound, I think it was. And I go, so you're saying she's fat? And you're saying that's a reflection of me as a parent, right? And I came home and I told my wife, I was like, the vet said our dog is fat. And she goes, she is. And I go, you too? I thought you would be a better mother than this. Why are you doing this to our child? So now we have this rail thin chug, if you would, or this pug zoo is really what it is. And the pug zoo has been thin forever, but occasionally will eat their sister's food too. So all of a sudden now that you mentioned, you're like, yeah, let's eat their sister's food. I'm like, no, I'm experiencing that in my life right now. And the rail thin one's starting to get a little fat too. And we go, oh, I've been calling this one a fat baby, but now the other one's fat too. So they won't know which one's which.
That little bastard, he's over there doing it now. Just a second.
Uh-oh, go do the thing. I'll cover for us. It just... I love that this is what happens in a live interview, is that you see the parental little bat signal go off and he has to go make sure that his children are not going to become too obese. But that's the kind of commitment you're going to get over at Precision Submission Grappling. He will make sure your kids will not get cartoonishly obese like a cat so that they don't become like Garfield. You know, we're gonna circle here in a second, but what I was getting to before Churro came in and interrupted was I saw photos of you at a podium, and I know we alluded to you being a governor. What did you do with that podium and what was happening? Because again, when you don't televise something, I just see photos of it and go, oh God, what is this? What is he doing?
Yeah. So that was during a time where I was making when the people had elected me the governor of grappling. And I just, the week we walked into the venue for that event, it was our event back in June. It was our summer trials event. It was the last qualifier before the Iowa Jiu-Jitsu state championships. And the previous event had just had a podium dead center in the middle of this giant stage, in a 5,000 seat sanctuary or arena. And I was like, we're going to use that. And it started as a joke, during setup, we left it there and we set up everything around it. And then when it came time to do the event, the night before, me and my photography team, Brian and Dan, were there, and we were just messing around, shooting some little clips and some little promo stuff. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a speech at this podium, it's, to promote the event that's coming up tomorrow. And then the day of the event, we did that video and it was great. It was, I thought I did a really good job of writing it personally. I was pretty proud of it. But then the day of the event, I always usually do like an address. I do a very personal address to the people there at Subspectrum. Usually I'm just sitting on the edge of the stage or standing in front of the stage with a microphone. And I was like, we're going to take this up another notch and I'm going to do it from a podium. And so I did, and made for some really cool photos. And yeah.
Again, no context theater over here in Los Angeles. I just see it go up and think, what is he doing? And then I start laughing because I have no reference. So in my imagination, I go, I think I know what it is. But because I can't see what it looks like. And I think at one point I saw a video of you just gesturing and I go, oh, yep. It feels exactly like I think it is in my head. So I can only imagine what nonsense and absurdity is going on. But
the photos make it look like I was doing something a lot sillier than I really was. I think I was like explaining a rule. So I was like, and then they're going to make them stand up. So like my hands are in the air, like detailing the guard pulling rules or whatever it is. But I was like, oh man, that looks like I am giving a governor speech right there. This is great.
But it also makes me think of one thing, which is I feel like I'm missing out on that. So it did detail something that made me look at your event and go like, man, I kind of wish I was there. That seems really fun, or that seems really awesome. So, it's sometimes left to that ambiguous nature of like, there looks like they're having fun in Iowa. So good on them.
Yeah, you got to be there to experience it yourself.
Nah, just show it to me on TV. I'm at this age now, man. Like, if I can get out to places, I try to do it. But even this weekend, there's an event out in Long Beach that sounds fun. It's a 2-day event. It's jiu-jitsu. I got stuff to do. Should I go? Am I taking time away? Am I going to buy a general admission ticket? Am I going to do the interviews? I don't know, man. Like, I almost thought about just going low key, but low key still means like I bring the Iron Man suit with me. Like I still have recording equipment with me just in case. So I don't know. And I feel like I would normally do the interview process and get the press credential, but it always feels like such an absurd thing in our sport to go, may I have a media pass? And they go, oh, well, and I go, I don't want to hear whatever you have to say. It's just a yes or no question. Like if I have to run through hoops, I'm not going to do it, but I would love doing it. So it is, that's the dilemma I go through. What I would say to you is this though, sir, super stoked for your gym. In a minute here, I'm going to let you plug everything and get to it, but I did want to give some props. Happy to see the success. Happy to see you continuing to be out there and competing and pushing yourself, because I know that's one of the things that can get lost when you're about to open up a gym, is that sometimes you don't get to compete as much, or you don't get to teach, or not teach, but you don't get to take as many classes for yourself. So you're going to be so immersed in that world and running that business and building and building and building. So just seeing you put yourself out there was like, you know what, that's kind of cool. Like it's a stressful time, I'm sure, but doing that and continuing to put on the good work is a very good way of showing to your students how you can kind of balance and stay focused.
And I think that's another good important point to bring up about why I also wanted to leave open the weekends and that Wednesday midweek break, is so that I can go get my own training. There's a lot of really great jiu-jitsu academies here in town that I'm encouraging my students to go cross train at, and I'm going to set that example by showing up to other black belts in town's classes and learning myself. I don't want to become so immersed in being an instructor that I stop my own learning. So I want to, on Wednesdays, go drop into a noon class. That's why we don't have noon classes as well, because that's the one time of the day where I feel like I can go drop in somewhere. On the weekends, I want to go out to Iowa City or out to Davenport or out to Omaha, some of these other places where they have some really great gyms with high-level instructors and high-level competitors and practitioners. And I want to have the opportunity to continue doing that. Like I said, I want opening a gym to be something that enhances my life, not something that shackles me down and makes me feel like I have a real job again. There's a reason that I got away from that life, and I'm not going to fall into the same traps that might lead me back into it.
Well, that's great to hear, sir. So I'm going to give you the microphone here in a second to go ahead and tell people, thank all the people who have been helping you to get your gym ready to go, where they can go, when they can go, all that sort of stuff. So the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, so if you're looking for me personally, you can find me on Instagram at Jordan Jitsu. Our event, Subspectrum, at SubspectrumBJJ, or www.subspectrumbjj.com. We've got an event coming up on November 9th. It is our fall classic for adults, and then we have the Future Stars, which is our kids and teens tournament brand, and we have the first ever no-gi state championship. So we're going to crown the first crop of kids and teens Iowa Jiu-Jitsu state champions. That's November 9th here in Des Moines. And then Precision Submission Grappling. You can find us at Precision Sub Grappling on Instagram or precisionsubmissiongrappling.com. Classes are currently running at our temporary location. We have 6 a.m. and evening classes for adults, and then we have a whole host of kids classes for ages 4 to 17. So if you're interested in checking out those classes, head over to precisionsubmissiongrappling.com, and you can request a free 3-class trial.
You know, old habits are hard to break, so you're not wrong. They're still going to get what they need to get. It's just for your own purposes, you got to get more used to saying the precision one a little bit more.
Yeah, but for sure.
It comes with the territory. Well, sir, congratulations on the opening of the new gym. Congratulations on the continued success of Subspectrum. I very much appreciate the time that you had here today. And I got to tell you this, though. So it occurs to me as I'm closing up here. I was like, you know what? Why haven't we been in the same place at the same time at some point? And then I remember I was like, oh, when you go on these fancy excursions, you're like, I hate cities, though. And I go, okay. Well, you don't hate me, so you could always detour around that area. Like, nah. And I was like, so, I'm going to put the blame on you. This is your fault. We haven't been in the same place, same time. Just saying.
It is a little bit. Or you could come to Iowa. It is a great place. I tell you what.
So, okay, hold on. Walk me through this. If I went to Iowa, where am I flying into?
Des Moines would be
How
the
far
spot.
is that from where you would be?
So the airport's like 20 minutes from where I'm at.
It's not the worst.
I live in-
Okay.
Yeah.
Perhaps for a future subspectrum, we can make something happen. And again, not one where I'm stealing the jobs of your prized children, because I do not want to do that. But if, say, there was a third spot, maybe something else of the ilk, we could figure something out. Because I got to tell you, most of the time when I go do these things, I'm always like, wait, I'm not just going for one thing. I have to book up my travel. We're talking, I'm training, I'm interviewing, I'm doing something productive. If I don't do all three of those things, I'm like, oh, it's not worth it to go. So we can figure out something to that accord, because I would love to see it. And ever since you've been trying to get us out there for Jiu-Jitsu Woodstock, I have not forgotten. So it's somewhere in the back of my mind. It's just got to be a scheduling thing. And when we can make it happen, we will make it happen.
Absolutely. And I'm not opposed to going to SoCal. So,
see, that's what I wanted to come back to. I was like, I'm not ending without saying it's still your fault. Like, I'm just being the bigger person here to try to make something happen.
No, we got some spots we want to get to out that way too. I mean, I've been to LA, I've been to San Diego, obviously, spent a decent amount of time in San Diego, but yeah, there's some spots out there that we want to get to too. And I wouldn't be totally against coming into the city if I was nearby.
I'm just saying, no one says you have to stay here. Like, we can get you in and out. You can come train, eat, and then be on your merry way and out of the garbage and somewhere nicer in a certain amount of time. But I just love whenever we get this, and you're not the only person to do this. We're just like, I won't be in LA. And I'm like, you don't have to stay in LA, motherfucker. You just have to show up for literally 20 minutes and then you can go away. Like, it's fine. So we like to say that to our guests, but of course to you, a longtime friend of the show. So I'm going to close this up. I'll say bye to you off air, but my thanks to you, Jordan. I hope all is well. Everybody, if you are in Iowa, this is the place to go train. Go train with my friend, and also go to his tournaments. He has been doing an excellent job. And if it is making me appreciate his work all the way from the confines of Los Angeles, I definitely know you guys will get a lot of great fulfilled training and entertainment out that way. So my thanks to you, Jordan. I'll talk to you in a second, sir.
Thank you, Raph.
All right, guys, a few quick reminders. First and foremost, if you like this show, like, comment, and subscribe. If you do those things, that'd be great. But if you don't know what you want to comment on in the comment section, let me give you a topic prompt. How about this? In the comment section, if you want to put in whether you would attend a no-gi school, tell me the reason why you were to attend just a no-gi specific school. Maybe you might have different reasons. They're not invalid. I just want to hear from our audience to figure out if that is something that interests them. You can also find us at patreon.com/grappling hour, $5 a month. See our interviews 30 days before anybody else. And for a few extra dollars, get extra bonus content not available anywhere else. Additionally, my friends, just so you know, you can also get this merch at rafesparza.com/merch. rafesparza.com/merch. Go there, get yourself a hoodie, a Grappling Hour hoodie, Grappling Hour t-shirt, all of our merch, all of that jazz. And additionally, you guys can keep things going by giving us some love and continuing the conversations that we have here on the show on our Discord. Ladies and gents, that's going to do it for us here at the Grappling Hour. Thank you so much for watching. And by the way, this was our season finale. Of course, I forgot to mention that. Ending our 6th season. Thank you for an incredible 6th season. 48 interviews, a lot more fight companions, a lot more bullpens, a lot of our good friends joining us for running the gauntlet. It is my hope that you like the content that we produce here on the show and that we are continuing to bring you bigger and better things every season. And I felt like season 6 was very solid. Season 7, going to be even better. So my thanks to you guys. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.